All right, Julie, welcome to the show. I'm delighted to finally have you here.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
Um, Delighted in the sense that, a bit of back and forth, a bit of scheduling, making sure that we can make it happen. And here we are. I couldn't be happier to have Taziki's on the pod. I've actually had a colleague of yours on the pod before about 6 months ago from your operations team, a woman called Jessie DeShield. Have you come across Jessie before?
Oh, yes. Jesse and I work very closely together.
Yeah, so I had her. We were talking all things ops, but we won't be talking all things ops today. We'll be talking more marketing today, which is honestly my favorite topic. As the person who runs marketing at Landed, it's certainly a topic nearest and dearest to my heart. Um, One of the things I always do, Julie, at the beginning of any episode is ask my guests to introduce themselves because I find I always botch the introduction, frankly, and undersell my guests. So would you mind telling us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and I think most importantly, how you got to where you are today?
Certainly. I am Julie Wade, head of marketing for Taziki's Mediterranean Cafe. We have almost 100 units based mainly in the Southeast. We go up into the Midwest as well. I got my start in marketing back, I won't tell you what year this was, but it was with Blockbuster Video back in the
Uh,
day. um, and worked for a very large franchisee of Blockbuster for several years. Then I was a stay-at-home mom for about a dozen years. Then got back into retail, restaurants, and have been in food service with different restaurant brands for about 14 years now, and just love this industry. Have been kind of in frozen desserts, then full service restaurants for the last 5 or 6 years, and just really love dealing with people directly, creating campaigns, promotions, projects, advertising, anything that directly affects behaviors. And you see it in the numbers, you see it in the store level, and it's very beneficial and rewarding to see that come through.
Totally. I love to see that too. I love when you do a little test and you go, "Whoa, hello, bit of a reaction here. This is something." But I think with food, it's even more amazing. Like you've got like you're saying, like the guts of 100 locations. Like, you know, would you like be able to like say we want to do a promo of a new type of sandwich, and you could like pick a number of locations and say, let's just see how well this does. Like when you talk about promotions, like how talk me through like say like a fun like an experiment or something that like worked, and you were like, ooh, like that was awesome.
We can kind of do things like that. We have to work with our culinary team, and so it's a little. It's not like I can just like wave a magic wand and say, okay, yes, we're going to do this in this many stores on this date, and
Yeah.
do all of this all of ourselves. So there's a lot of coordination that goes into it with our culinary team, ops team, a lot of cross-functional development that has to happen there. I'm trying to think about a fun test that we did. Well, one thing that we did Christmas before last, we knew that we needed a new dessert option. We really only had a couple of things. We've always had chocolate chip cookies, which is just, you don't think
Yeah.
about chocolate chip cookies being a Mediterranean staple. And then we had baklava, of course, which
Of
is,
course. Yeah.
that's you have to have that in a Mediterranean restaurant, and always been very, very big seller. And the bakery that is a traditional Greek bakery in Florida, they make all of our baklava. Well, they also make a baklava cheesecake.
Oh, hello.
And yeah, oh, it's fantastic. So we decided, and this was late 2022, we wanted to bring that in and test it and see how that would do as an additional dessert option for us. And we tried it in, I believe, 2 markets and thought, okay, well, this might cannibalize our other desserts. We're not really sure how it's going to do. It is a little more expensive. It was definitely a higher price point than what we were used to from our dessert items. And what we found is it did not cannibalize our other options. It lifted the entire category to the tune of about 50% lift on the entire category. It was so popular, we brought it back the next year, and now it is a permanent menu item for everybody. Everybody
That's
in the
awesome.
system. So it was a very, very strong item and really, really did well, and are very pleased with the way that it has performed from all the way from the test, then as an LTO, and then now as a permanent menu item for us.
Was it a surprise? Like you're like, oh wow, like this is
Yes, it
now
was very much a surprise because I'm not a huge baklava lover myself. So and my husband doesn't like cheesecake. So I was like, well, you kind of have crossed out both of us, because if you
yeah.
don't like cheesecake and you don't like baklava, then you're not really going to be a huge fan of that. But there must be enough people out there that really, really liked it, because it really took off. And it's a great product. And it serves well. It's a huge piece. So you're really getting a lot for your money, which I
Yeah.
think people see, as soon as it's served to them.
It's a
Oh,
big,
yeah, yeah, it's
it's
very,
hefty.
very, yeah, it's visually very impressive. So that's a good thing. None of that shrinkflation stuff that people talk about. So I think that helps. It photographed very well, so that
Yeah.
was also very nice that we could put it on a lot of elements in the store, and that certainly helped. I was in locations and several times during both the test and the LTO, and we had table number signs, and there was a picture of it on the tables. People would get their meal and they would sit down, and we're an elevated fast casual, so you go through the
Yeah.
line, you order, you sit down, and we bring you your food. And people were sitting at the table and they would see the photograph of the piece of cheesecake and they're like, oh, I want one of those. And they'd go back
Yeah.
up to the counter and order one after they finished their meal. So it was, yeah, it
That's
was,
awesome. And
yeah,
it's,
quite a surprise. And again, it was that kind of gratification of, oh, okay, I helped, design this, put this promotion together, and then we saw the change in behavior of people, that call to action that was there, order this, and they did it. They did what we asked. And that was nice.
motivated buyers.
Yes, very much so.
Tell me, like, on that topic as well, changing behaviors, and you're saying you're like in an elevated fast casual and elevated fast casual in the South as well, like, so tell me, how do you see, having been in this industry for a long time, you've seen sort of tastes and trends kind of change and evolve over time, that now, like, somewhere like a Taziki's contrived to nearly 100 locations in such a kind of quick time, really.
Our our menu from the beginning has been very approachable, even though we started out as Taziki's Greek fare 26 years ago. We still had a lot of Southern flair to
Yeah.
our menu. Pimento cheese, pasta salad, chicken roll-ups, which is basically chicken, feta cheese, and tomatoes rolled up in a tortilla. Um, we really leaned more toward comfort food
Yeah.
types. People see Taziki's Mediterranean Cafe and they think, oh, this is some weird exotic food. I'm like, no, it's meat and potatoes. It's
Yeah.
very easy, very approachable. And that's what we've kind of grown into and grown up from, I guess. But now, as we see the millennials who have grown up with Taziki's, and now they're bringing their families in, and with the Gen Zers who are growing into Taziki's as adults, they're looking for a little more in their
Yeah.
food choices, their their menus. They're wanting a little bit more. Um, so we added some spicy items to our menu a little over a year ago. We added a whole harissa line. So we have harissa chicken. You can get it in a euro or as a feast, and then we have a harissa hummus. So things like that we're constantly looking at. What else? What can we add in? What other things are we missing? We just added a falafel just this week. That's always been kind of a missing element for us because we don't have fryers. So that
Yeah.
is a typically, a deep fried item. Well, when you don't have a fryer, that's very difficult to do. That's something that we've wrestled with, we've toyed with, we've tried many different recipes and different ways to serve it. So we finally found one that met the Taziki standard. So just this week we were able to launch that and give so many of our customers, especially those ones that are the younger demographic that are seeking out that vegan, vegetarian based, gluten free
Yeah.
options, letting them have more choices with us. So I think
Totally.
that's where it's gone. Those our menu is moving more toward those expanded types of palettes than what we've typically seen.
It's interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned spicy because I feel like spice is like blowing up in this country. I feel like everywhere I go, I'm seeing like spicy chocolates and spicy canned drinks now,
Oh
spicy
yeah.
food. Like, I mean, it's like, because hot has always been a thing here, and I've never understood that, like hot wings and hot, like whichever, but now spicy's kind of coming into it now. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, it's interesting. So it's interesting you guys were ahead of that. Very fascinating. I think, one of the things I did want to ask you as well was that you came into Taziki's in COVID, as a
Yeah.
marketing leader. And I'm very fascinated by that because it's like, I mean, I guess I ran a marketing org at a tech company during that time that was, I guess, in the midst of very much dealing with COVID and not realizing the impact it probably was having on the business. And whereas obviously in hospitality, it was a very direct, like punch in the nose. Like it was like, no, your restaurant has to stop today and everyone has to react to, well, if we can't open the doors, what do we do? And I'm curious, you come in August 2020, like what was it like for you coming in there and being like, okay, we got to market our business now?
Yeah, when I walked in the door that day,
Was it
most
a was it a was it a real door or like a digital Zoom door?
it was a real door. Believe it or not, we were in an office. Most of our restaurants were open. We had a few in different pockets across the country that were still not open. Their dining rooms were not open for various reasons. So we were starting to emerge. We still had stickers on the floor, stay 6 feet apart, and all that kind of thing. It was still very much the boom of the digital. Taziki's was very fortunate that before March of 2020, they did have an app and did have digital ordering. Um, some of the restaurants had been on third party delivery, not all of
Yeah.
them. Some franchisees had been a little slower to adapt and adopt those platforms than others. But they, like everybody else in the business, they all quickly saw the benefit of that and had jumped on. So one of the first things that I had to do was really kind of evaluate where we were and see, okay, is the strategy that we're in right now, was it working? Was anything needing to be tweaked with any of those third party partners? Um, it was actually kind of a good time to start because it was I could focus my attention on kind of one thing at a time. Like there was zero catering happening.
Yeah.
came in. So that was like one area I didn't even need to look at, didn't need to worry about, didn't need to talk about. Um, so it was a way for me at least to get acclimated to the brand and almost kind of have my own slow ramp up as the world kind of reawakened and I could kind of go along with the brand and kind of ramp back up with the way that the stores were opening back up. So it
Totally.
worked well.
But it presented like obviously a unique marketing challenge because you weren't in an island of your own making as well. Like the whole marketplace was also literally marketing itself back to people again through third party, through staying alive and keeping the lights on. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, was there anything in particular you did to the marketing that would have been like, oh, like when I say differentiating, I mean like, because it presented such a unique challenge, it presented such a unique opportunity as well to be like, okay, well, we have to figure out something. We have to try new things or make people aware that like we exist. And clearly it has worked because you're at almost 100 locations now and kind of came at the back end of COVID. Like, what do you think was like the sort of secret sauce for not only surviving as a brand, but thriving kind of coming out of it?
Well, in the very first weeks of COVID, when the world was shutting down, and of course, this is before I was with the brand,
Yep.
the folks that were here did a remarkable job of pivoting and figuring out ways to do anything that they could to help out their communities. And really, it was kind of a twofold measure because it was out of self-preservation, of course, trying to keep their staff employed as long as they could, keep things moving at the restaurants, but also to help out their communities. And because they knew things were not right, people were suffering, people were stuck in their homes. And so we had some very creative franchisees, very creative people here in the corporate team that they created these neighborhood drops where they would take orders through Google Forms and they would say, okay, we have a family feast item where you can order for 4 or for 6, and it can be any protein and either potatoes or rice and a salad. They were doing these orders via Google Form for neighborhoods. And
Yeah.
they would, take 20, 40, 60 orders at a time and then load up a van and go drop it. They would say, okay, I'm going to go to the front of Liberty Park and we're going to be there at 6 p.m. on Thursday night. And all these orders would come in and they would go to the front of Liberty Park and here's the order for Smith and Jones and Johnson and Brown and Hill and whoever. And you would just go to the van and, you paid by credit card and you'd pick up your order and take it back home. And that was the way we had like a restaurant on wheels. And it kept our folks employed during all that time, but yet it was able to feed the families in those neighborhoods so that they were able to have something come to them.
Yeah.
And then they also did like a marketplace pantry kind of thing where, the grocery stores were out of everything. And through our
Forget that.
yeah, remember that? I mean, it seems like that was eons ago. And
That's not long ago.
no, 4 years ago, just a little over 4 years ago. And through our food service distributors, we were able to get a hold of some of those critical supplies. So same type of thing. We were able to take orders for, different, I know we did produce and I can't remember what all other types of items that they talked about, but, they did those types of things in the first weeks and things kind of got back to normal. I think there were a few neighborhood drops that were still happening even after I started. We had a franchisee in Chattanooga that I think continued that up through the fall. That was a very successful sales tool for him.
Yeah.
Even after school went back that fall. So those types of things really continued. The family feast actually, it had been a something that was introduced not too long before COVID, and it had done okay, but that really helped launch it, and that is a pillar of our menu right now. So we do now family feast promotions quite regularly and build off of that success that was really started during
That's
the
awesome.
there. Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting as well. Like, I'd be remiss not to mention third party here. And as a marketing person, I'm curious your take, because third party went supernova during this period of time. I mean, just for any like holdouts, there were no more holdouts. It was like be on or be gone, you know? And but I've always, like, as a marketing person, and this is just me kind of like just thinking out loud here, like, I kind of feel sometimes that like third party is like affiliate marketing. You know, it's like those who want your food will come and get it anyway. In a way that like those who want, like those who click the affiliate link for whichever online, we're probably going to buy your pair of Nike trainers anyway. Like when you see Rakuten or Honey or any of these things, and you get that discount. I was like, I would have bought it anyway. I'll take the discount. And I see something like, you know, restaurants, especially fast casual, and kind of some were early to third party, some because of COVID coming on. But like, not all food is made equally, and not all food delivers as well. Like, I feel like pizza delivers exactly how you imagine it because it comes in the box and it's been doing the same forever. And everybody else had to figure out how to deliver their food. But like, I think we're probably only as a market coming to terms with the impact on brand from third party only kind of now. And I'm curious your take, like when it comes to third party, what impact do you think it has on, like, say, Taziki's brand, or just any brand, like your perception of its impact on a brand? I'm just curious your take.
Yeah, it kind of cuts both ways. It can, it probably helps and it probably hurts in equal measure. Um, I know a lot of our franchisees were always very concerned, and I even get this still when I go out into the field. Um, they feel like we catch a lot of the blame for the things that the third party delivery drivers do. If they're late, if they forget something, if they forget to pick up the drink or something that goes along with it,
Ugh.
um, and we get the blame for that. But on the flip side of that is, yes, but we're getting our food in the hands of the people, and if we do our best with it, and our food travels tremendously well. It packages well. If we put our correct branding in it, we have really beautiful deli paper that goes in most of our items. It goes in the packaging there. Um, we can get a good customer from that. I was at a conference last week, and one of the topics was about,
Which conference was that?
it was RLC, the
Okay,
restaurant.
you're at RCE.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the topics was third party delivery, and how do you get those customers back into your first party ecosystem? And it's one of those things that every brand just kind of keeps hitting their head up against the wall over and over again on, what do you do to pull them into your own system? And the speaker said, really, the best way to do it is by making them love your brand. If they don't have affinity for your brand, then they're just going to, scroll and just find whatever it is they're hungry for that particular day. Until they fall in love with your brand, they're not going to get off of that DoorDash or Uber Eats app and come directly to you. So that's what we have to do. And I can only do so much as a marketer. That really, that's a lot on our operators,
Yeah.
to make sure that experience is what those folks are expecting it to be, that the food is exactly what they ordered, that nothing is left out, that it's on time, that it's, if they ask for something with no onions, that there's no onions in their food. all those types of things. So
Yeah,
it's
it's go
yeah,
on. Sorry, I was interrupting your thought.
no, that's okay. It's to me, third party delivery has always been one of those necessary evils, that it gets your food out there in front of folks, like you were talking about in the marketplace, but it's you can't live with them, can't live without them, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think about it a lot because I think like, if you open up Uber Eats, you open up DoorDash and you type in like a gyro, like it could be anybody's gyro, and I find that really annoying because it's like as a brand, I'm like, we're really like an in how like four walls kind of place. And it's that necessary evil of having to put the food there. So that hopefully it works as a sort of incremental sale, that the person who has the experience and eats their DoorDash is like, oh, they have a restaurant too. I'm gonna go there and try it in the restaurant. But I don't know, like, when it comes to blame, like my kind of, I guess I've done so many podcasts and I've kind of formulated my point of view on this, but maybe this is my own personal point of view anyway, which is like, I don't blame a restaurant for how the food gets to me anymore. Before COVID, if the food came soggy or whatever, I'd be like, that restaurant, never again. But now I'm like, okay, the restaurant's getting this through an app that, you know, they have all the staff running around. The average length of time somebody's even worked there is probably 2 or 3 months. So everybody's still getting new to every process that's inside that kitchen. That food then goes to a kid on a moped more often than not, who then has to pick it up and then drops it to me. And I've definitely come around to the kind of psyche now that everyone is kind of blameless because the system that we have is not perfect, but it's just the system we have. And so, like, can't blame the restaurant for the way the food kind of arrives because it's like too many hands have brought it to me now. The moped kid kind of not really getting paid much out of it. So it's like, I'm working on tips. So it's like he's completely blameless more often than not. And then you can't really complain to Uber Eats or DoorDash anyway because you talk to that chatbot on the app and you might get $3 off your next Uber Eats or DoorDash at the end of 20 minutes of discussing with the chatbots. You kind of are like, oh, okay, fine. This is what I'll eat. But all that to say that it kind of lowers the experience, which leads me to ask the next question, which is like, if the digital experience is not the most premium experience of Taziki's, talk me through how you think about delivering the best kind of guest experience when they walk in through the doors.
Oh, well, certainly. Our brand was built on hospitality.
Yeah.
When our brand was founded 26 years ago by Keith and Amy Richards, after they went to Greece and absolutely fell in love with the culture, the hospitality, and the cuisine, and they wanted to bring that back to the States and specifically bring it back to Birmingham, Alabama. That's the feel, the vibe, and the message that they have instilled in their first restaurant, and hopefully that is all the way into the 90th something that we just opened up in Dallas, Texas last week. It's that Greek man at the door, welcome. You walk in the door, you immediately smell the wonderful aromas of the rice cooking or the lamb on the grill. It's the ambiance, the feel of it. You hear vibrant music playing. We don't play Greek music in the restaurant, but we play upbeat, things that make you feel good and make you feel happy. And
Like the music is part of the aesthetic, basically.
it is, yes, and it's
Yeah.
very well thought out. You're not going to hear sleepy things in the restaurant. You're not going to hear old things, old songs. It's that's definitely part of it. We try and gauge all the senses, so you're seeing all of the photographs that are on the walls in our restaurants are photographs that Keith took on his various trips to Greece. Which before I joined the brand, I've been a customer of Taziki's over 20 years.
Yeah.
So I was very, very familiar with the brand. I didn't know that all the pictures on the walls were taken by Keith. I had no idea. So that's a very interesting element. And then, our store design, we call it coastal Mediterranean. We have basket lampshades. It's all coastal blue, white. It very much looks Mediterranean. So, we're engaging all the senses, the your sight, your sound, your smell, and of course, when you taste the delicious food there. But you're coming into the restaurant, like I said before, we're an elevated fast casual. So you come in, hopefully you're greeted by someone, and you find your way in the line. You order at the counter. You sit down. We don't have kiosks. I don't think you'll knock on some kind of wood or something. Won't see kiosks in a Taziki's, at least for a very, very, very long time. We like that human connection. That's one of our
Yeah.
brand values, is connection. So a human will be taking an order for a very long time, if not
Yeah.
forever. And then once you place the order with the cashier and you sit down, you don't do anything else. We bring you your food, and then we bus your table, clean it, and that whole experience hopefully is something that is, definitely more than a typical, QSR type experience. It's funny. Last fall there was another conference I attended, and I brought some fellow attendees who were from different parts of the country and had never experienced
Yeah.
Taziki's. It was actually in a city where we had a Taziki's location, and I took them on one of the lunch breaks to one of our restaurants. And one of my colleagues walked in, and he was like, "Oh, this is a real restaurant." And I was like, "What did you expect?" And I think that he was thinking it was more on the lines of a QSR than, as we are, like an elevated fast casual. And
Yeah.
he was very impressed with just the scope of the build out, the feel, the rich textures and colors, and just the look of the restaurant itself. So it's definitely, not a stripped down. You're not going to see flashy digital signs or anything in there. It's not going to be that kind of experience. It's
Yeah.
definitely a very human, hopefully meaningful. We have host and hostesses in every dining room that will hopefully take care of you in a very connected type of way, and that's what the Taziki's experience is all about. In addition to the great food, of course, takes center stage, but we also
Yeah.
have a hospitality element to all of it.
I was gonna say, because I was just gonna ask you, is like, what do you think are like the key elements of like the Taziki's brand, like that you would hang your hat on and swear on the Bible, or things like are like the ultimate brand promises?
Well, it's definitely hospitality is
Yeah,
number
just
one.
great hospitality.
Yeah, yeah. In addition to, quality ingredients, um, the type of food that we serve. Um, when you think Greek food and gyros, and a lot of people come to us thinking that it's going to be that processed meat that you get shaved off of a spit that are in our gyros, and that's not what it is.
Yeah,
It's more hand carved. It's like almost like steak. It's whole muscle, lamb, beef, chicken breast. That's the kind of meat that we serve. And Keith, our founder, he likes to say it's what you would find if you went into someone's home in Greece. This is the type of meal that you would be served. It's not street food. That's not what we're serving. This is sit down at someone's table in their home in
yeah.
Greece.
Have they sent you over to Greece yet? Have you done any recon in Greece?
I've actually been to Greece. Yes, I have. So some of the pictures behind me on the wall are some of my from
Oh,
my travel.
nice. There's some Santorini back there, I'd say, is there?
Not Santorini, but close. I went up the other coast. I didn't go south. I went up the western
Adriatic,
side.
is it? Or Western side of Med?
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And like I guess, tying a bow on all of this, because we haven't really spoken about like loyalty, data, infrastructure, and all
Um,
that kind of stuff. And obviously that's its own conversation in and of itself.
that's a follow-up conversation. Yeah.
That's a follow-up, that's the round two. But I guess, you said you were coming to Taziki yourself before you even worked there, that you were a relatively frequent customer. Like, how would you define like habituality for like customers for Tazikis? Like, are they coming like once a quarter kind of thing? Like, are you able to track that? Or, how do you think about like engendering kind of greater habituality with your customers?
Yeah. Our customers, our loyalty customers are coming about once every 36 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I mean, we definitely have more that, or some that come more frequently than that. And we've got some in some of our locations that literally come every day. And it's crazy. It's like Cheers. People walk in,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how you doing?" And they can,
Except they're all sober.
yes, very sober. We do
And
have
Ted
alcohol,
Danson's not
but we
there.
don't. You what?
And like Ted Danson's not there.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
Ted Dance is not there. We do have alcohol in most locations, but we don't have a bar that you can come belly up
yeah.
to at most places. Um, but it's very much that homey kind of feel. People come in so many times a week or a month. Um, but then, we've got the other end of the spectrum that people will come in, a couple of times a year,
Yeah.
and they're members of our loyalty program as well. So, it runs both ends of the gamut. We're trying to squeeze that, and we want people to come in instead of every 36 days, more like every 26 days,
Yeah.
and get.
And that's where like I presume there's like an investment into CRM, CDP to really kind of blow up that number by 30% basically, which is huge.
Yeah, we
um
made a significant investment in our tech stack in 2023,
yeah.
and everything you just mentioned. Trying to leverage that data that we do have to do that personalized marketing. What can we do to hit those folks to really see when they're coming, when are they falling off, how can we get to them before they completely leave us. All of
Yeah.
that is, it's still a work in progress. We don't have everything figured out. We don't have the data in a place where we know it needs to be, and our messaging where we know it needs to be, but we're
You
getting there.
know, what I would say is you're by no means unique. This has been a revolution for hospitality businesses since COVID, is this utter digital transformation. And we're kind of coming out of the first phase of it now. I think just given every conversation I've had with everybody that, where tools like your toasts and your blocks and whatever else people use, like great starter tools for everybody, great to like get into analytics, get into data, but data infrastructure, like proprietary warehousing of data and like proprietary tooling and software for like how to do your own loyalty program. Building it, takes time and takes investment, takes knowledge workers to come in, like experts in their field to come in and help make that happen. And so like, it's great to know that you're doing that. I think like it is going to be such an unlock, I think, for the next 100 locations, if that makes sense. I think lots of brands want to do it, but it's like getting to the point of being able to invest in it and actually like make it happen is like the next thing, like that's like the kind of next inflection point. I think like in the post-COVID sort of restaurant experience is like divesting from like third party, like being very beholden to third party, very beholden to certain like analytics products, and kind of moving forward into one's own sort of database, so like data infrastructure to really kind of unlock. I had a great guy on the podcast about 2 months ago from Groucho's Deli, a guy called Derek Rosenbaum. And I honestly would implore anybody to listen to that. It was like getting a free MBA in restaurant data infrastructure. I was like mesmerized by the man. But to that point, I mean, very inspirational. And Julie, like, thank you for sharing everything here today. Like, I like have loved listening to you. I can't believe we've covered like 40 minutes already. Can you believe that? And you were
Oh,
like,
that was
oh,
fast. Yeah.
you were like, oh, Friday afternoon. I'm like, me too, girl. Me too. It's like, but like, no, this is like very informative, and it was great to like honestly hear your passion for Tazikis. I mean, it's like, well, I was gonna say like I was gonna say you bleed blue and white, you know, like do you bleed the Greek colors now? Like clearly, like you're such a great ambassador for the brand, and you know it inside out. Like it's amazing, and it kind of speaks through the podcast, speaks through the radio, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything with me.
Well, thanks for having me, Alex. It was fun.